This is not a rant. This is an assessment. Reality can leave a bitter taste in your mouth. Work hard at school, get a high paying job, and then you can have the cool things you've dreamed of. The nice car, the big yard, and the trappings of a middle class life.
This is the world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century.
The housing market collapse created one financial crisis after another, and it often seemed as if the news could only get worse. Here's a look back at the roller coaster that was our nation's economy.
Lehman Brothers is going bankrupt.
Hello and welcome. Thousands of Northern Rock savers have queued for hours.
Financial markets from Asia to Europe are doing their utmost to prevent Monday from turning from dark to black.
Black, dark, empty. The future looks bleak for most of us. You're thinking why? Chances are you are a student, a young professional. In fact, you might even be like me, somebody who has started to make progress in their career. A 90s baby, one of the last millennials, or an unfortunate Generation Z victim. Our current world is clouded by the canopies of those who came before us. They have cut the light from above us. They're starving us of everything they took for granted. They still hold all the cards. They are making sure they win by preventing us from even playing the game. On paper, I'm doing well. Like you, I did my time in school. I got the grades. While I spent the 2000s figuring out exactly what a nucleus does within a cell, the world was changing. While my parents were fighting local councils to try and get some social housing, London, the UK, and in fact, the majority of the world would never be the same again.
UK house prices are 7.7% higher on average than a year ago. The Building Society's House Price Index said the average house price hit £174,910 in the 3 months to November. It was a 2.1% rise on the quarter before. Rising house prices come amid a weak supply of new homes and soaring demand off the back of stimulus for the residential mortgage market under the Help to Buy and funding for lending schemes. Martin Ellis, housing economist at Halifax, said that the real terms decline in income should help constrain house price growth.
Psych! That's the wrong number!
Actual example, Birmingham is a city where the housing system is breaking hard. House prices are up 45% in the last 10 years.
The Canal and River Trust, the number of people living on London's waterways has increased by 75% in the last 5 years. But making the move from land to the water comes with new considerations.
Last week I offered him Labour votes to pass these housing targets because this is bigger than politics, to get those targets through.
Mr. Speaker, we're not going to work with the Labour Party on housing.
Tick tock, watch the clock. Time is ticking. Housing is finite. It will remain as such. Good housing stock has been snatched up like the last M&Ms at the bottom of the pack. If your parents aren't homeowners, you're fighting an uphill battle. You're at conflict with the geriatric cartel who own the brick and mortar in this country, skirmishing to snatch up the scraps of social mobility they have left behind, tussling with perhaps their greatest weapon, time. The next few years will be Thermopylae. Londonification is spreading throughout the UK like a blight. The new age landlords have incorporated their vehicles of financial extraction. Your 85th percentile income for your age means diddly squat when there's bidding wars in the capital for the privilege of paying 40% of whatever that take home is. Okay, so that's our situation. You and I, however, we're smart. We're gonna save up and buy a house. We're gonna buy a house before we get left behind. So, me personally, I'm a great saver. I'm a smart guy. I got a good job. I'm going to save £1,000 a month. Let's see how long it takes me to buy the average house in London. Well, if I was going to put down a 25% deposit, that's £125,000. That's 125 months of saving. To put that in plain English, that's over 10 years. So that's not an option. But for a 10% deposit, that's a bit more realistic. We're looking at £50,000 cash. This is money that needs to be put down in cash. That's 4 years of saving. A bit over 4 years, actually. And when you take into account, even with a lifetime ISA, that's probably just knocked down to about 3.5. That's 3.5 years of consistent saving and saving of about £1,000 per month. That means that £1,000 from your take-home pay is going into your bank account and not being spent. Now, if you're living in London and you're paying any form of rent, unless you're making significantly above £75,000 a year, that is not happening. The percentage of people under the age of 30 on a salary of £75,000 a year is exceedingly small. So essentially, if you're under the age of 30 and want to buy a house in London, even saving for it is nigh on impossible, let alone paying the mortgage repayments. That's the easy part. So getting to the point where you approve for a mortgage is beyond difficult. But there are people buying houses. There are a lot of young couples moving into properties in London. People saying, we just bought our first house at 23. Here's what we did. I'll tell you what they did. I'll tell you exactly what they did, and the numbers don't lie.
It has not been easy for me. And, you know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
The proportion of first-time home buyers who receive financial help from their parents has doubled since the 1990s. Rising house prices and stagnant wages have made it increasingly difficult for young people to afford a home, leading many to rely on their families for help. According to research from YouGov, among those who purchased their first home between 2015 and 2019, 54% said they had received some sort of financial assistance from their parents. This is compared to just 27% of people who bought their first home between 2000 and 2004. That is a massive change. So what does this all mean? Well, the truth of the matter is a ticking time bomb. The property market in the UK has allowed a very select few minority of people to take almost entire economic sections of the population out of the running. Rents are exorbitant. A smaller and smaller subset of the youth is able to ever afford a home. And the ones who are buying up these homes usually are the children of those who've benefited from the capital appreciation, the increased income from rent from the previous generation. So you have a sort of cycle of rich people getting even richer, while the proportion of people who are almost priced out of accommodation has skyrocketed. Housing in the UK has become a myth, and you have areas like London which are already out of the equation. The average person cannot sustainably live in London without really cutting back on the quality of their life. Places like Birmingham, Manchester, even other northern cities are now experiencing their own property inflations. So even these cities in the next 10 years most likely will be borderline uninhabitable for the average person. And the only people able to buy up property in these locations are the children of those people who benefited in the 90s and the 2000s. So you have a sort of pseudo-feudalism reignited based in the UK property market.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
Don't be upset. All of this information I'm telling you is not about making you feel sad. It's about giving you the facts, and the facts are bitter. They're not easy to understand. Essentially, the BBC and ITV won't tell you this information because ultimately they haven't been through the struggle we're going through. They haven't been through the pain of not being able to make rent or living in a one bed in the middle of nowhere because you have no other options. Essentially, there is a way out of this problem, but it's not easy and there will be sacrifice. And personally, I've done it and I want to spread the awareness of how it can be done. I'm sorry to say I've made a lot of sacrifices and a lot of decisions that haven't been easy. But essentially, if I don't make these decisions today, then 3 years, 10 years, 5 years down the line, I'm in trouble.
This is your last chance.
The property market is a mess everywhere. There's this class of people who have homes and there's a class below who don't. And we're competing with the children of people who've got massive amounts of capital. So essentially, if we're not bringing our A game, we're going to be left behind. Personally, I'm a few weeks away from being a proper homeowner. And I've done it with no parental assistance, no handouts, paid in full. Well, the deposit at least. I'll be holding a 90% mortgage, unfortunately, but there's no other way around it. As somebody from ends in the UK, as we say, it's not been a straight path. No one's taught me this. I've learnt it from friends and I've learned it through osmosis. And essentially, I'm really annoyed every day that this sort of information isn't passed down in school. But I guess there's a reason for that. It's not a conspiracy, it's just schools don't care, you know. Most teachers today will probably never own a home without parental support themselves. So that's just the reality of it. And trust me, I know I used to be a teacher. Life's not fair, and to get on the property ladder in the UK, you need to try and beat the banker mum and dad. Unless of course they're behind you, then I'm happy for you, man. It's not a game of hate. Please subscribe if you like the video. I'll be releasing more cool stuff later on. Hope you enjoyed. And if there's any questions, please comment down below. Safe.